Hello everyone. In this part we're going to work on the profile section. So first I'm gonna add the background pattern for this screen. So let me add this property show pattern as true, and then I'm gonna add the opacity. So opacity will be 0.4. Okay, now it looks better. Okay, so now let's just comment this code, and here I'm gonna add the container view. Actually, let's just remove this because we don't need this. So let's add a view and give this a style of container. Now let me just copy and paste the style sheet for this home screen, and I'll just show you these styles whenever I'm gonna use this. This will save me some time. So let me just copy these variables: spacing y, radius, and spacing x, like this. So here we are using the container style. So container have the style of flex1. Now inside this I'm gonna add the header. So let's add another view and give this a style of header. So you can see the header styles here, and the idea is I want to show a welcome message on the left side, and on the right side a settings icon. So you can copy the styles now inside this and add another view, give this a style of flex1. And first I'm gonna add a typo. This will say welcome back to the user, and here we're gonna display the username, and we can get the username from this user. So let me just make this current user, and this will display current user dot name. Let's save this. So right now we can't see it because it's black. So let's just change the colors. So color will be neutral 200, and let's increase the size to 19. And then I'm gonna add another property as the number of lines will be 1, like this. So let's save this. There we can see welcome back and the username. Now I want to make this username bold. So let me just wrap this in another typo. Give this a size of 20, color of white, and then let's make the font weight as 800, like this. Okay, so this needs to be white, like this. And let's just copy the username and paste it inside this typo. Let's save this. There we can see. Now I want to add an emoji after the username. So let me just copy and paste this, and let's add a bit of space after the username, just like this. Okay, so this is looking good. Now I'm gonna add a settings icon after this view so that this will display on the right side. Let's add the touchable opacity and give this a style of setting icon. And for the setting icon I have the following style, so you can just copy these. And inside this I'm gonna add the icon. So we need to import the icons. Let's just go to login screen and copy this import statement and paste it here. Okay, and the icon we're going to use is called gear 6. This is the one, and let's give it a color of white, and it's going to be fill icon. So weight as fill, and the size will be vertical scale of 22. Let's close this and save this. So there we can see the setting icon, and when we click on this, this is going to open a profile model. So let's add an onPress method. Actually, let's just leave it empty for now. We'll come to this later. And now I'm gonna add another view for the content. So let's add another view after this view and give this a style as content. Let's just save this. So this is going to be the content area where all the chat list and the group list will go. So these are the styles for the content. This is rounded from the top. So you can just copy these styles, and let's just leave it empty for now. And now I'm gonna add the model for the profile. So inside the main group I'm gonna add a new file, profile model. Let's create a new function. Let's change the name. Save this. So now we should be able to move to this new screen. So let's go to the home screen, and here using the router which we need to define. So here I'm gonna use the use router hook from Expo router like this, and let's use it here to navigate to this new screen. This is the one. So let's just save this and see if this is working. So now if I click on the setting icon, we are moving to new screen, but as you can see, this is not a model and we need to define that in our stack layout. So in this stack, I'm gonna define a new screen, and the name will be main group and then the profile model. So here we can define some options, and the option we're gonna define is presentation as the model. So this will make it as a model. Let's close this and save this. Okay, so there we can see now the profile model is actually a model. Okay, so now let's go to the profile model, and here first I'm gonna copy and paste the style sheet for this model, and I'll just show you these styles. So let me just import these variables. Okay, so now let's add the screen wrapper for this component, and this time we're gonna add the property is model as true because this is a model. And what this will do is add a bit of padding on the top and the bottom. We can see a condition inside the screen wrapper. It adds a padding top and the bottom like this, and we can also add the pattern using this property. So there we can see the pattern, but this does not look good, so I'm just gonna remove this, and let's remove the text as well. And here I'm gonna add the container view, so let's give it a style of container, and let's import the view component. So you can already see the container styles at the bottom. We have these properties: flex one, justify content, and padding horizontal. So you can just copy these. So now I'm gonna add the header inside this container, but I want to make it a component so that we can reuse it. This is going to display the back button, the right and the left icon. So let's add a new file, header.tsx, and then let's create a functional component. Let's rename this, and this is going to receive the properties as the title, left icon, and the right icon. So by default this will be an empty string, left icon, the right icon, and then the style. If you want to override the style from the parent components, this will have the header props. So if I go into the types, you can see the following properties. You can just copy these types. So now we're gonna design this header. Let me just add the style for this container. So we're going to have the default container styles and the style that we passed from the parent component, these ones. So let me just define the styles here. Actually, let me just copy the styles and paste them here. Okay, so these are the styles we're gonna use, and you can already see the container styles. It has a width of 100%, and these properties you can just copy these. So inside this, first I'm gonna render the left icon if we are passing any left icon from the parent component. So let's add this inside a view, give this a style of left icon, and then render the left icon here. Let's close this. So if you're passing any left icon, this will show on the left side. These are the styles for the left icon, and then let me just copy the same line for the right icon, and let's just change all of these to right icon. Now this will show on the right side of the header, and in the middle we're going to display the title. So let me just add a condition if we have the title. Then I'm gonna use the typo component, and inside we're gonna render the title. So let's just add some properties here. The size will be 22, the font weight will be 600, and I'm also gonna add the custom styles for the title, because we need to make it into the center and we need to make it absolute. So these are the styles for the title. This will display the title in the center. So the header component is complete. Let's save this and use it inside the profile model. And here I'm gonna add the title as update profile. Let's close this and save this. There we can see the title, but we do need to add some margin at the top. Anyway, so now I'm gonna add the left icon, but this left icon will only be shown on the Android because this is going to be a back button and we don't need a back button on iOS model, but this model does not show on Android. So for Android we do need a back button. So let's use the back button component, give this a color of black. Let's close this and save this. Now we won't be able to see it here, but this will be visible on Android. So let's add the style, give this a margin vertical of spacing Y of 15. Let's save this. Now it's looking good. Okay, so after this header, I'm gonna add a form where user can update the profile information. So let me just add a comment form, and here I'm gonna use a component scroll view, and let's give it a style as the container styles, styles.form. Let's close it. So for the form styles, you can see we have a gap and the margin top, so you can just copy these. And inside this, I'm gonna add a view for the container of the avatar. So this will have a style of avatar container. So this is just to contain the avatar and add an edit icon later. So these are the avatar container styles. Now I'm gonna add the avatar component. So let's create a new file, avatar. Let's create a functional component, save this and use it here. Oh, my bad. Let's save this and let me just reload the application. There we go. Now this will receive some properties as the URI, size, style, and a property called isGroup, because we're gonna use this for single avatar and the group avatar as well. And we need this isGroup avatar for the group avatar placeholder. So these are the props, and you can just copy these properties and their types, or you can find the link of this file into the video description. Now let's use these properties. Now here I'm gonna add the style for the avatar. So let me just add the default styles as the avatar, and then the height and the width will be using the size property. So let's use vertical scale and then the size, and same as the width, like this. And then we're gonna use the style property that we're passing from the parent component. Okay, so for the styles, I'm just gonna copy and paste the style sheet. For this component, we just have the avatar styles. Let me just import these variables. So here we have align self, height, width, and the border color. So you can just copy these properties. Now here we're gonna use the image for the avatar, and we're gonna use Expo image because it caches the image, and that is very useful because we don't have to load the image again and again. So let me just copy this command to install this library. First we have to stop the server, then paste it here. Okay, so the library is installed. Now let me just run the project. Okay, so the app is running. Now let me just remove this, and here I'm gonna import the Expo image. We may have to import it manually. Now here let's use the image, give this a style of flex1. Then I'm gonna add the source property. So this will be URI for now, but I'll change this later to a function. Then I'm gonna add content fit as cover, and then the transition as 100. So this is just for a smooth transition. This will have a fade in transition for the image. Now for the URI, I want to have a function that will check if the URI is a string, an object, or if it doesn't exist. So that will handle all of these cases, and for that I'm gonna add a new file as the image service, and here I'm gonna add a function. It will be get avatar path. Now this will have two properties as the file and isGroup property, and we do need the isGroup property because the avatar can be of a user or a group, and we need to show the placeholder for both of them. So first I'm gonna check if we have the file and the type of file equals to string. That means it's already an uploaded file, so in that case we're just gonna return the file. Then I'm gonna check if we have the file and the file type is an object. That means it's an asset object and we can find the location as file.uri. But if we don't have the file and if isGroup is true, that means we are showing an avatar for the group and the file does not exist. In that case, we're gonna show a placeholder image for the group. So we already have this in our assets, default group avatar. And lastly, we're gonna return the placeholder for the single user avatar, and that is called default avatar. Let's save this. So let me show you these images into our assets /images, and then the default group avatar and the default avatar for the user. And these will be displayed when there is no file for the group avatar or the user avatar. So these are just the placeholders. Now let's use it inside the avatar here. So here I'm gonna pass the URI and isGroup property to this function. So let's save this, and now we should be able to see the placeholder. There we can see right now the URI does not exist, and that's why it's showing the default avatar image. So let's pass the URI as null, and then let's add the size as 170 because I want to have a big avatar of the user here. Now I want to add the edit icon on the bottom right side of this avatar. So let's add a touchable opacity. Now inside this I want to show a pencil icon, but we need to import these icons. So let me just copy this line and paste it here. And let's use the pencil icon, give this a size as the vertical scale of 20, and then the color will be neutral 800. Let's close it and save this. So there we can see the pencil icon. We need to make it absolute, so let's give this a style of the edit icon. Let's save this. Now it's displaying on the bottom right, and these are the styles to display it on the bottom right and have a shadow of the icon because the background is white. Now after this I'm gonna add another view for the inputs. So let's add a view, give this a style, and I'm just gonna add a gap between the inputs. So let's add spacing Y of 20. Let's close it, and inside this I'm gonna add another view for the input container, and this will just have a gap for the title and the input. So let's add a typo for the label of this input. Let's give this a style, as I'm gonna have the padding left as spacing horizontal of 10, and this will say email. Let's save this. So there we can see the label. Now after this let's add the input component. Now the user won't be able to update the email, but this is just to show what's the email of the user. So let's add the content container style. So we need to make it look like this is a disabled input. So let's add the border color as neutral 350, and then the padding left as spacing horizontal of 20. And then for the background color, let's use a neutral 300. Okay, so let's close this and save this. Okay, so there we can see it looks like it's a disabled input. Now Inside this, we're gonna display the email of the user. So let's get the user from a use auth hook. And here in the use effect hook, I'm gonna set the user data in another field, another state. So we need to define the state user data, then set user data. Then this will have the type as the user data props from the types file. So here I'm gonna have the name and the email and the avatar. By default, this will be empty. So let me show you the user data props. We have the following properties and their types. You can just copy these or find the link of this file into the video description. Now, when we mount this component, I'm gonna set the user data from the user that we have in the auth context. So email will be user.email and the avatar will be user.avatar or null. So let's save this. And we still can't see the email because we have to define the value here, user data.email. So there we can see the user email, and we shouldn't be able to update this. Actually, we can't update this because we haven't implemented the onChangeText property. But if you want to implement that, then you can add this property editable as false. This will let the user not to be able to update this even if you have the onChangeText property. So let's add this, and this will give us the updated value. Let's set this to user data. First, we need to spread the user data and then the email as the value. Let's save this. Now we're still not able to update the email because we set the editable as false. Now I'm just gonna copy this for the name input, and this will be name. And let's also change this to name property like this. Let's save this. There we can see the name input. We should be able to update this. So let's comment this out and see if we can update the name. Yes, we can. Now we don't need the background color for this input. So let's comment this out. Let's save this, and now it's looking good. So now I'm gonna add the footer area at the bottom. So after this view, let's add another view and give this a style of footer. And here we have these properties for the footer style. This is going to display at the bottom here. So you can just copy these style properties. Now in this footer, first I'm gonna add a button for the logout. So let's import the button and let's give it a style. So for this one, I'm gonna have a background color of red. So let's use the rose color. Then let's give it a height of vertical scale of 56. And same goes for the width. And then I'm gonna add an icon inside this. So let's use the icons, and the icon name is sign out. The size will be vertical scale of 30. Let's give it a white color, and the weight will be bold. Let's close this and save this. There we can see the footer and the logout button. This border is coming from the footer. There we can see this property. Now I'm gonna add one more button after this button for updating the profile. So let's add the button. I'm gonna add this style as flex1 so that it takes rest of the space. Then let's add the typo. This will say update. There we can see the button. Now let's make it black and it needs to be bold. So let's add the font weight as 700. Okay, now it's looking good. Now let's add an onPress property. This will handle the submit. So later we will implement this to update the profile data. For now, let's just leave it empty like this. Now I'm gonna add the loading property on this as well. So when we're updating the profile, this will show a loading state, and let's define the loading state as well. By default this is going to be false, but if I make this true, we'll see the loading. There we see the loading, but I don't want to see this button when the loading is true. So what we can do is we can make a condition here. When the loading is true, then we should not be able to see this button. So let's move this button inside this condition. Let's save this. So now we don't see the button, but we do see the loading. So let's make it false. Now the buttons are back. Now I'm gonna add an alert when we click on this logout button, so that we alert the user that are you sure you want to log out. So let's add an on-press method, and here I want to implement a function show logout alert. Okay, so here I'm gonna use the alert from React Native. This is going to show an alert saying confirm, and this will display a message, are you sure you want to log out? And then I'm gonna have two options for the user to cancel this alert or to log out. So the first option will say cancel, and on pressing on this cancel, we won't do anything. We'll just console log a message cancel logout. And the style for this button will be cancel, like this. Then the other option will be to log out, so the text will say log out. And let's add an on press method. This will trigger the handle logout function, which we'll implement in a second. Then the style for this one will be destructive, so this will show as a red button. So let's add this function handle logout. This is going to be an async function. So first we're gonna go back from this screen and then log out, and for that we're gonna need the router. So let's use the use router hook, and we're also gonna need the sign out function from the use auth hook. Now first we're gonna use the back function, and then we're gonna use the sign out function. And the reason we are using the back function is previously when I was working on this application, for some reason the model was not closing when we sign out. So this is the workaround that I use. Now if I click on the logout, let's see if that works, and it did. So we're going back to the welcome page and the socket is disconnected, so the sign out is working. Let me log in with my account. Okay, so now we're gonna implement the on submit function to update the profile data. So first I'm gonna add some validations, so that user must input the name. Let's get the name and the avatar from user data. Here let's add a condition. If name has no value, then we're gonna alert the user that please enter your name. And then a return statement after this. But if we do have a name value, then we're good to go and update the profile. So let's just save it for now, and now we're gonna implement the update profile event. Yes, we're gonna use the socket event to update the profile. So let's define update profile event. And the second parameter will be a callback. This will give us the data sent from the front end. This will be an async function, and the data will include the name as a string and the avatar as a string or a null. This should be a colon. Okay, so inside this function, first I'm gonna console log a message that update profile event and the data that we got from this event. Then I'm gonna get the user ID. This is the ID of the user who is currently logged in and updating his profile. So here we need to make a check if the user ID exists. If it doesn't, then we're gonna return this socket event. So now we are sending the response back to the front end using the same event, and this will say success as false, and the message will say unauthorized, because the user must logged in, and if he's not logged in, then the user ID will not exist. So if it's logged in, then we're gonna add a try catch block here. And here I'm gonna console log a message saying that error updating the profile, and then the error. And then we're gonna emit the same event but with an error response. So let's just copy this code. And then we're just gonna change the message that error updating profile. Okay, so now we're gonna update the user inside the try block. So we're gonna get the updated user, and we're gonna use the user model and a function find by ID and update. So this will find the user by the ID and update the given data. First we're gonna provide the user ID and then the data that we're gonna update. So in our case, we're updating the name and the avatar. And the third parameter is the query options, and for this one I'm gonna add the property new as true. So this is very useful because what this will do is after updating the user, it will return the user with the updated values. So let me just add this comment. Now if we don't get the updated user, that means something went wrong. So in that case, I'm gonna return the same error response, and this time it will say user not found. Okay, so now we need to generate the token with the updated user values and then send it back to the front end. So let's get the new token, use the generate token function, provide the updated user values. So now that we have the new token, we can send a success response. We're going to send the same event update profile, and then the data will be a success true and then that new token. So let's add success as true. The data will contain the new token, and then let's just add a message saying profile updated successfully, like this. Okay, so with this, the update profile event is complete. And yeah, so what we're doing here is we are sending data to the backend and getting the data in this callback. Then we are updating the user like this and generating the new token and sending the success response. And if everything goes well, this will update the user. So let's get back to the front end, and now we need to define this event into our socket events. Let's just copy this same function, and we're gonna just change this event name to update profile. Let's save this. So now we can use this in the profile model. Let's go to the profile model, and here first we need to define the data. So let's create a data variable, and here we have the name and the avatar. You might be wondering, we're not updating the avatar, but we'll handle that later. Now we need to send this data into update profile, and this will be sent to the backend. This will trigger this block, and this will send the data to the backend. Now we're sending the data to the backend, but how do we receive this emit from the backend? And for that, we need to register a callback on the front end as well. So let's just copy this use effect hook and remove this, and remove this dependency as well. Now here we're gonna define a callback handler for this event. So let's pass a function process update profile. And when this component unmounts, we're gonna stop listening to this event. So we need to pass the same event and pass the true as off property. So what this will do is it will stop listening to this event. Now let's define this callback here. This will receive the response, and let's just console log the response. And then we're also gonna stop the loading. So first we're gonna have to start the loading when submitting the profile data. So when we call the update profile, just before that we need to set the loading to true. So this will start the loading, and when we receive the response from the backend, we'll set the loading to false like this. Then I'm gonna add a condition. If the success is true on this response, that means the user profile is updated. But if it's not, then we're gonna alert the user with the error message. So if the user profile data is updated, we're gonna go back to the previous screen and then update the token as well. So if you remember previously, we have a function in the auth context that handles the update token. Here is the function. We pass the token, it updates the token in the storage and update the user values in the auth context. So we can just use the same function for this one as well. Let me just import the update token function, and then we're gonna use it here because we're sending the updated token, and that contains the updated user values. So let's just pass the token to this function. Let's save this, and now hopefully everything works. Let me just reload the application. Okay, so now let me just open the terminal for the front end and the back end so that we can see the logs. Now let's try updating the name. Let's make it Nomi, and then hit update. We see the loading and we got the response. That was very quick. So here we got the response with the new token as success true. The message says profile updated successfully, and here you can see the name is updated. And in the backend we got the update profile event. We got the name avatar as an empty string for now. So the update profile function is working. Let me just close this and reload the application to see if we have the updated data. Yes, we do. So let's change this back and hit update. Now it's updated, and even if we reload the application, it will show the updated values because we updated the token. Now I'm gonna work on picking the image from the gallery, and for that one I'm gonna use a library called Expo image picker. So this is the library, and you can see the demo how it works. Let me just copy this command to install. First we need to stop the server. Okay, so the library is installed. Let me just run the app. Okay, so first we're gonna import this library, and that we can just copy from this documentation. Here we have a sample usage. So let's just copy this line to import the image picker. And now I'm gonna copy this code to open the gallery and pick the assets. Yeah, this is the one. So let's define a function to pick an image when we click on this edit icon. So let's define on press, and I'm gonna implement a function on pick image. Let's define it here. Okay, so this is going to be an async function, and inside this let's just paste the code. So this is going to open the gallery, and we will not be looking for the videos, only images, and we do not allow editing, and then the quality will be 0.5. So it will get the results and show it here. Then we need to set it into the user data. So first we need to spread all the user data and then set the first asset as the avatar. Not the URI, we need the whole object. Let's save this. So now when we pick the image, it opens the image gallery and we only see the images. Now let's choose this one, and we see some logs in the terminal. Okay, so this is the asset that we picked from the gallery, and we are interested in the property URI. This is the link of the location of the file. So what we're gonna do is we are gonna use this in the avatar. like this. So now let's pick the same image and see what happens. And there we can see the user in the avatar. Now it's showing the URI of the location of the avatar, because we are sending the URI, and because URI is an object of the assets, and in this function we are checking if the file is object, then it will return file.uri, and that is the location of the file on this asset. That's how we are seeing this image in the avatar. Okay, so with this we have implemented the profile update and the image picker. And in the next part we'll work on image uploads using Cloudinary.